Bullish desirelessness is the name of a concept that I have sort of come up with. And the reason I say sort of is because the concept I'm going to teach you today, it is present in like basically every major world religion, and there's aspects of it in plenty of successful people, very successful people's beliefs. And however, like no one's, at least from what I've researched, no one's ever been able to tie all of this together into one like solid core concept. And they, someone probably has somewhere, but not that I've been able to find. Um, and this concept of bullish desirelessness I'm going to teach you in this video, I think it will really give you a massive fucking realization, because the more I like learn about this and like it's more so like discover it myself and myself in my own life and my own business. The more it like just gives me massive realizations, and I want the same to happen to you. However, I do need to give a disclaimer, and that is that I have not articulated this very well at all yet. This is more so a rough concept within my own mind. The clear details of it just don't exist yet. So I'm gonna be more so like in this video, I'm gonna be yapping and waffling and like, trying to make a point. I'm trying to make a point, but I'll only be able to like skirt around the point without actually, hitting the nail on the head with it. I'm going to be doing a lot of that in this video. However, I believe this is like my secret sauce. And not a lot of people are going to watch this video. So, do with it what you will. Okay. But the concept essentially of bullish desirelessness is quite akin to the concept of nirvana in Buddhism, in a way, and it's also quite akin to, the concepts of what do you call it in Christianity? Repenting, when you like let go of your sins and everything like that. And it kind of like ties it together a little bit. Or that's sort of a lot of what it is in a way. But we'll talk more about that in a second. Let's first look at like the words of bullish desirelessness. Okay, the words bullish. The word bullish basically means being like confident and like kind of going all in on something. Like I think it comes from like trading or stocks, where you're bullish on an investment. Where you're like you go all in. This is gonna be it. You're confident with it. Okay, you're like unperturbed when someone tries to like shake you from it in a way. Tell you it's not it. And then desirelessness is not having desire, okay? And so you string it together and it's like confidently not having desire, which I don't think really explains it well. And I'll be honest, like the term bullish desirelessness I've put on it, the more I've learned more about this concept, the more I've realized that this term bullish desirelessness doesn't really fit it that well. And so I'll be honest about that. But essentially, like this concept that I've come up with it's around the big theme of like letting go, letting go of what you currently have in your current identity, to basically progress on to the next level in a way. And I'll give you some examples on this in a second. I'm just trying to explain like it at its core first. And it's like so for example, like when Christians like repent, which is like I'm not Christian. I haven't read the Bible, and so my explanation of it probably isn't the best. But repenting is kind of like I don't know how to. It's not another word you can really use for it. It's kind of like going. It's not going back on your sins, but it's like it's almost like forgiving yourself. It's not really forgiving yourself. It's like admitting them in a way. Admitting your sins and admitting they're bad. And being honest about that and kind of letting go of them. And then for that you get forgiven by God. And then like nirvana in Buddhism is kind of like that highest state they try and achieve, where you don't have any desires, but it's not like you don't have any desires because you're bored and you're depressed. It's like you're free in not having. It's like the highest level of freedom, where you're not constrained by any like mental constraints of desiring something. Because you think about having freedom, it's like, what would you do if you were fully free? Well, it's hard to say, because like if you were fully, let's say you were fully free, but you had desires, well then those desires would essentially control you because they're desires, and then you're not technically fully free. It's like if you're fully free, you would be able to control what you wanted, but then if you can control what you wanted, then how do you decide what you want if you don't want anything? You know, it's a bit of a paradox there, but that's kind of what I think Nirvana kind of holds there. And the concept of bullish desirelessness is kind of like that together. It's kind of like letting go of your past self and your current self and these mental blockers and your desires and all of this, and letting go of it confidently, and like, confidently jumping to the other side of the ravine, confidently, letting go of the old side of yourself and jumping onto the new side of yourself in a way. And like, letting go of those desires in a way. So if I can give you an example of this, for example, like being bullishly desirelessness. When I was 13 years old, there was this girl I had a massive crush on, and eventually I like asked her out and everything. And then after like a month or something like that, basically she like broke up with me. And this is before I was on self-improvement or anything like that. But at the time I was just starting to like see some videos on it and everything. But the thing is, I continued being friends with this girl and her friend for like quite a while. We had like this group chat and everything. And I was kind of like, under their control in a way, if that makes sense. It's like, I put them on a pedestal, and like, what would happen is I'd mention, oh, like, I'm working out or going for a run, and they would, kind of like, slyly make fun of it in a way, and so I was kind of like I felt guilty about being on self-improvement and everything like that, and that kind of held me back for a long while, until eventually I kind of had this like moment of, I'm gonna let go of them, because for me it was like scary being on self-improvement in a way, like wanting to, because like no one was going to the gym. It was like scary for me to like want to go to the gym and want to work out and to want to run, because that wasn't like a normal thing. But eventually I kind of like let go of them, and like I just told them like I don't want to talk to you anymore. I literally just messaged them that I don't want to like speak to you anymore, and then I basically just kind of went all in on self-improvement, and then like a month later than that, I ended up starting my channel and everything, and that was kind of like a catalyst for me. But that was kind of like an example of bullish desirelessness there, okay? I was confidently letting go of my desire to please them and be friends with them, and I was like letting go of that current version of myself to latch on to the new version of myself. And the way you can imagine it, the explanation I kind of give for it, okay, is like, imagine, let's put my phone down for this so you can sort of see this, okay? All right. You can't really see the floor. You don't particularly need to see the floor, to be fair, okay? So imagine, can you see my face? You can. So imagine I'm like here, these cardboard boxes are kind of getting in the way. But basically, imagine I'm here and there's like, a big ravine, imagine like this space here. Imagine that space there is like a big ravine, like a big hole in the ground. And I want to get over to the other side of it. Well, for when I'm here, I'm going to be, planted on this side. I'm going to be like clinging to this side, This is my side. Imagine like there's a big cliff here. I'll be like fucking holding onto that cliff, You don't want to fall down the ravine. You're holding onto it here. But you need to cross it. So what will happen is you're holding on really tightly to it here, all right? And when you're not crossing it, you're really tightly holding onto it. But as soon as you commit to it, as soon as you let go of this side of the cliff, and you want to go to the other side, you let go, you instantly just like jump over, if that makes sense. And then you're clinging to this side. And so, I know that's like a bit of a weird explanation, but it's like you have that point of commitment where you stop clinging to the current cliff you're on, and you let go, and then instantly you're aiming for the next one, you're clinging onto that one, if that makes sense. That's kind of like the letting go process of bullish desirelessness in a way, and that's kind of, what I did. I let go of that version of myself, and then instantly latched onto the new version of myself, Or it's like, imagine you're about to go down a water slide, okay, and, what has to happen is you've got your hands out holding onto the handles, But then as soon as you let go from the handles, you're instantly going to get in like the position of it, and you're going to commit to it. It's kind of like you let go of that and then instantly you commit to the new one. It's like you stop clinging to the old position and then, cling to the new position in a way. That's kind of like what it is, all right? It's like letting go of the convention of what you were previously doing, the normalcy there, and moving into the new one and then clinging to that. That's kind of like what bullish desirelessness holds. It's like the process of letting go. And this goes so much deeper than you think it does, okay? Because oftentimes, in life, when we need to make changes, it's hard to make change because change is obviously unfamiliar. There's so many examples of this. Change is quite unfamiliar. And what happens is we don't make change because that's hard to make. And so naturally what happens is we stay steady footed in one area, staying on one side of the cliff, and we get really good at staying on that one side of the cliff. And what happens is you get into like a normal routine, okay, like a day-to-day routine of it, and you get into like a normal set of beliefs. And what happens is these beliefs, your routine, your habits, everything like that, they almost form like a shell in a way around you, where it's like, you get used to holding onto one side of the cliff. You get used to these habits. You get used to these beliefs, and these beliefs, your habits, all of this in your mind, they basically like almost like a shell, like a callus, like a callus on your fingers. They build up strength, and they get stronger. And what happens with the shell is like really, really good at protecting you for where you currently are. Okay. And they're really, really good for keeping you safe for where you currently are. The bad thing about a shell, though, is it's very, very hard to grow within a shell. It's hard to move within a shell. You physically look at animals, okay? I think this was mentioned in the 48 Laws of Power, like assume formlessness, the 48th last law, if you've read that. It's like animals which have shells, physically to grow, they need to let go of their old shells and their old skins and everything, okay? And oftentimes, and this is proved evolutionary, generally, with a few exceptions obviously, but generally animals which live in shells, animals like evolve into, this will sound funny, but animals gradually evolve into having shells, but then as soon as there's like a cataclysmic event, which needs them to adapt quickly, and needs them to like change quickly, basically change quickly because of the new circumstances, because basically the change in the environment's happened. The shell no longer works for the current environment, then what happens is, because they're so used to the shell, they can't then adapt fast enough. And then generally what happens is shelled animals, they'll be great, they'll be really, really good at surviving in set conditions, but then when they need to adapt, they can't adapt fast enough and they die out, okay? And this kind of happens with your beliefs too, where if the world was unchanging and you were just staying in one place, well, naturally, and it's good to, naturally you build up that like shell of beliefs, that works well for where you currently are, okay? However, when you need to go into a new environment, when the environment changes, you struggle then because the beliefs don't, they don't work there, if that kind of makes sense. And so that's kind of like why we are held back from change. It's basically just because like you're in the habit, you're in like you're used to being in your current place, and it's comfortable and it's familiar, and your beliefs are set around that. You got that protective shell for where you currently are. But when you need to move somewhere else, you no longer have that shell somewhere else in this new environment. The shell no longer works there. And so it's like you're kind of exposed and it's more dangerous, and you're not used to it anymore. So for example, like an example with me for this, is that right now, for the past 9 months, I've been at home grinding on my business, okay? And because of that, I've been speaking to nobody. I've only been eating, literally only eating like healthy food, like just this perfect set diet, steak, eggs, and fruit. And that's literally it. Just like pure raw diet like that. Not speaking to anyone, not doing anything fun, just work. And I got really good at working. And I've taken my business from like 2K per month to like 20K a month. And things are really, really, really awesome in that. Okay. However, now, because of that, okay, I'm now in like 3 days, I'm going to be going traveling, all right? And I'm going to France, and I kind of speak French to a degree. I think I'm like B1 or somewhere around that on average. So it's like I can get by, I think I'm like between B1 or B. I'm not like, I wouldn't say I'm like fluent, but I'm like getting there. It's like it requires effort for me. That's the side, but it requires effort. But I can like speak. But essentially, it's like I'm gonna be going there and I'm gonna be traveling, and I'm not just gonna be like, oh, I'm staying in a villa for a week and then going to this. No, it's none of that. It's like, I'm going to be going there for adventure, bro. You know, it's like, I've got money, but at times I'm going to have it with the goal of like trying to save money, if just for the like the fun of it, because like oftentimes when you do that, it's like that's when you have the best adventure. You know, everything I need is just in one back, you know, one like 8 kilogram backpack. I'm gonna film the whole thing, and I'm just gonna meet people, and I'm gonna be social, and doing that, it's going to be hard for me because I'm no longer working on my business. This is the hard thing. I'm going to have to let go of my business, and my business is now at a point where it can be automated. But I still got to I still got to manage it, and I've still got I'm going to have anxiety and letting go of it because I'm scared something bad's going to happen. And I'm going to have to get used to letting go of it, while also getting used to speaking to people, which I haven't really done in 9 months, you know? I haven't spoke to girls in like fucking 9 months, bro, okay? And so I'm going to have to get back into that. And for doing that, that's going to be hard. Because I'm going into an area where my current beliefs, my current habits, they don't apply there anymore, okay? And that's going to make traveling scary for me. And I've put it off a lot and been like, oh no, I'm just going to work on the business a bit more. Probably because of that, because it's like a hard new environment. Another example, okay, is that you just fall into routines, okay? Routines that are most efficient, all right? So you wake up, you cold shower, you get to work and everything like that, and that's like a routine. You're unlikely to do something different. Why? Because doing something different requires more mental brain power, and it's like it's not as efficient for you because you've not done it before. Or like, for example, when I go out hiking in the fields, out into the countryside, 9 times out of 10 I take the exact same route. Why? Well, because it's the best route to get to this viewpoint, which I like to do, and I'm used to doing it. However, if I was to go on different paths, then that's not something I normally do. I've got to think about navigating a bit more, and then it requires more resistance. Or even taking it to one step further, I very rarely wander off the paths and trespass. Why? Because I'm not used to doing that, and there's resistance to doing that. And that sort of falls out of my current shell in a way. Do you get that? Okay. And so kind of what bullish desirelessness is about is kind of like bullishly letting go of that current habit, of that current self. What you normally do is letting go of that convention, okay, and going on doing something new, and letting go of the rules and the constraints you mentally put on yourself. Because at the end of the day, physically, we are free. We got crazy physical freedom, okay? We're not constrained by food or by water or by health or by safety. The world's a ridiculously safe, a ridiculously rich place, okay? And you might think otherwise. And that's literally just because of our relativity, in that what you see as is rich compared to poor people. But you look at the poorest of poor now, and they are still better off on average than people were 500 years ago before that. Even I'm gonna be going around Europe. Okay, sure, it could technically be more dangerous than it was 5 years ago. If you really want to say that. But it's still ridiculously safe. The chances of you getting robbed and killed are still astronomically low compared to 300 years ago and before that. So what I'm saying is we got a ton of physical freedom. Most of our lack of freedom comes down to our own brains and comes down to our own desires. Okay, I'm gonna get to that, but it comes down to our own limiting beliefs. So I'll talk about the desires limiting us in a second, because that comes to the nirvana side of shit. But it comes down to letting go of our current self in a way, okay? And so essentially me going out hiking, being on the normal route, I let go of that current self, I let go of that desire of the efficiency there, and I move on to a new path, okay? And by doing that, I sort of move out of that shell of beliefs in a way, and I go into a new one where it's hard and unfamiliar and scary. Or I go on trespass, and it's hard and unfamiliar and scary, and the chance a farmer sees me, and this has happened multiple times where I've been trespassing, and the farmer's come and shouted at me for it, to get off his land. And so I've got a bit of a fear with that, but I let go of that fear, and I move into a new identity of someone who does, explore that, freely, not constrained by a path, and that's sort of an example of that, you let go of your current mental constraints. Another example is people who want to go to university and shit. They don't really, generally, they probably don't want to go to university. Okay, maybe they do, which we'll get onto in a second with the desire thing, but maybe it's just that parents pressuring them to do so, okay? And they're in the mental shell of I have to go, I have to go to university because my parents say I do, And so letting go of that would be dropping out of school, going against the convention, all right? And essentially, like, so dropping out and starting a business and doing something risky is basically like going against the convention. That's like to do with bullish desirelessness. It's like bullishly, letting go of that desire in a way. And we're going to get to the desire things now, I think. So what I said about like letting go of the desire, because as I said earlier, it's like the desires are still like constraints on you, in a way. And so how do I put this? It's like being willing to let go of a desire. So for example, someone, so you probably have your goals, like the ideal life you want to live. Okay. You probably have that desire. Bullish desirelessness comes kind of down to like being willing, or not even being willing, because that requires some desire. It's just like letting go of a desire for that, if that makes sense. And like, this is the nirvana thing, and it's kind of a paradox. Like, how can you not want anything while also being happy? It's like it is quite a paradox, and I don't think nirvana is even being about being happy. It's just about being, in a way. But bullish desirelessness is almost just about like ultimate freedom, not being constrained by like any mental constraints, or anything like that. Not like any desires at all, really. Although, something I am unclear on, because like it's quite hard to know like how do you have no desires at all. But I think the way I kind of use bullish desirelessness is just by only having one desire, or like one true desire. So for example, I have my mission where I want to like eventually reform the the education system in the UK, or maybe even further than that. And so I can have that as like the one true desire. And then I can use bullish desirelessness in a way where I'm willing to let go of every other desire and sacrifice everything else in relation for that mission. Okay. And so for example, like my closer, I'm not gonna like, reveal him or any shit like that. But I was trying to teach this to him yesterday, because for him, like, he's fucking great at sales, bro. He's great at that. However, his constraint has just basically been in his ability to work. Be consistent on work and be committed and have it as the number one priority. He lets like family and friends and all this stuff get in the way of it. And so I was basically saying to him, look, man, if you still want to be like, right, because I'm like, really close with him. We work on a lot of other stuff. He does like a load of delivery for my program and everything. He's not just a sales rep, he does a lot more than that. And I said to him, like, man, if you want to be like beside, on my side when we go to greatness and when we go into politics and we do all this shit and we end up changing the world, if you want to be a part of that mission to the point where like, we couldn't do it without you, you're going to have to get over, your current life and these current friends and your family, and you need to be willing to like let go of that and sacrifice that for the mission. You need to be willing to spend less time with your family for your mission. You need to be willing to cut off all your friends, the old friends you got drinking with, in order to prioritize this mission, okay? And so for him, that was the whole thing of like the sacrifice. That was like a thing for him for like doing bullish desirelessness. Or for example, my setter Lauritz, shout out to Lauritz, because yesterday I was teaching this same thing to him, to my closer, sales rep Evan, and my setter Lauritz. I taught this to both of them yesterday. And to Lauritz, I was basically like, for him, it was been dropping out of school and like telling his mum he's going to drop out and everything. He's like in summer holidays right now, but he was planning on dropping out. And like he's needed to tell his mum and everything. And I explained this to him yesterday. And then he did it because he was like, shit, I just need to like let go of that current version of myself who is like trying to please my mum by like staying in school and everything. And I need to like tell her I'm going to drop out and focus on the business. And like, what happened with him, and this is the really, really beautiful thing about when you act on bullish desirelessness and when you make a sacrifice, and that's when you let go, the act of letting go is very scary and it's very painful because you're moving into the new area where you don't have the familiarity, where you don't have the safety of the shell, But then what happens is you grow very, very, very quickly. So when he dropped out, like, not to like fucking, not dox him, but like reveal him or anything, but he was emotional, all right, naturally, as anyone would be. his mum was obviously very emotional, and he naturally was too, because he was like, his mum's basically like paid a load of money and like worked really hard to get him into like this school and everything, and then he's just basically said like, and also it's not just that, he's been in this school for like years and years, and he's, it's one more year to finish, and then right before the last year that she's paid a load of money for, he's telling it, yeah, he's not going to do it and everything, and he's really close with his mum, and so essentially like that's sort of what it required of him. But he basically said, as soon as he did it, and as soon as he ended the call with her and it was over and he'd done it, this guy went from like basically tears of like telling her that, an emotion, to just like excitement and happiness. He was like grinning like fucking crazy, bro. And he just told me like it's changed so fast. Like he's now saying like he's actually so, because we're doing a thing where like a load of us, like me and a load of my clients, including like Lauritz and Evan and everyone, we're all like basically moving into a penthouse together in Albania, and like we're like basically living together and working together and everything. It's gonna be awesome. And he's booked and paid for that and everything. And he's just said like now doing that's just like so exciting for him. That's just like, it feels like it's actually happening now, and he's like so excited for it, and he feels like he's like the new, he feels like he's like the new version of himself. Like, this idea of going and traveling and living with us and like being full-time on this, and going all in on it. He said that that's kind of like a thing for the future him, for future me, that's like for future me, that's success. And he said as soon as he dropped out and he let go of that constraint, the thing that was blocking him, and he let go of that. He said as soon as he did that, he felt like he was now his future self. He now felt like he's got that success, and he was so happy, and he felt so much more free, and that's kind of what happens when you can use the mindset of bullish desirelessness and you let go of these things. You just instantly feel like so much more free, and you will feel like your future self now. And that feeling of like, the materialism feeling when you get like a new item and you get that dopamine spike, you get that, but of like yourself in a way. And it's weird. It's like you get the new iPhone, oh, it's a new thing, it's nice, it's like, a cool new item, you like it. You get that, but like for yourself, and it's so intense and it's so strong and it's so beautiful. I was just like sitting there smiling, like I was getting into a the degree of emotion like witnessing this, because I was on a call with him when he called his mom to drop out. I was on like a Google Meet with him. And it was just awesome, bro, to see him let go of that. And it's quite similar to like repenting your sins in a way, where it's like, you let go of the guilt and like of it, or you don't let go of it. You should probably still have the guilt, but it's like you let go of like hiding it, and you embrace the embarrassment of your sins in a way, and you sort of bring them to light, and you stop letting them like control you in a way, and you stop letting them have that constraint over you, and instead you like transcend them in a way. It's quite like doing that. It's like you transcend the current version of yourself. It's like the way I try and explain it is like you overcome yourself. Like I keep trying to say, like in French, there's like a prefix you put before the word, which is just se, like se, and it's kind of like, it's like self in a way, like you do it, like you're yourself, and so if it would be like, I don't know, I'm not gonna give any examples, but it's like the word I'm trying to give is like like that prefix, overcome, like like overcome yourself, like do it on yourself, like overcome yourself. It's kind of like that. And it's like you let go of the current version of yourself. Like Larry said, he let go of the version of himself that was constrained by dropping out, and he just did it, and he became the new version of himself instantly. This is kind of like bullish desirelessness. It's like letting go of what you think you need. It's letting go of your current beliefs, and like just moving into the new version of itself. It's like letting go of convention. It's being, for example, being willing to drop out, being willing to go against convention, because this is the thing. If you want to get things you don't have, you need to do things you don't do. That's a whole nother thing, a whole nother mindset, which goes so much deeper, called the values of easy progress, which I might make another video on. But basically what I'm getting at is like, if you're willing to do what no one does, you'll get what no one has, And that's, I think, a really beautiful thing. And oftentimes the only reason you can't go where no one else has gone is because you have the same beliefs and constraints as everybody else. I think artists are very aware of this as well, because in art, people go against the convention all the time. In music, people go against convention all the time. Look at Bjork, for example. If you don't know who Bjork is, just go on Spotify and search her up. It's like BJORK. She's like an Icelandic Asian fucking singer. I don't think singer is even the right word to describe her. She like makes up her own languages, just like crazy, has fucking crazy sounds and like random fucking shit in it in her music, and then like it sounds good and it's just like unique and it's different, and that's because she's let go. She's let it go. She's let go. She's let go. That's the past tense of let go. It's just let go. She's let go of the convention of like making music, and she's been more unique, you know. Or I don't know if I can think of any films or anything like that. Or oh, I can't remember the name of it. I can't remember the name of it. But basically, it was this like French film. It was like quite a small production. Where basically they had like a 9 or 7 minute scene or some shit like that. It's basically just like a straight like the camera's just sitting down. It's just like it was like ridiculous, like 9 or 10 or something minutes, like a ridiculously long scene, and it was just a rape scene, okay, and it was just 10 minutes of that, all right. And the reason they did that is obviously bringing attention to shit like that. But they went against the convention. Like everyone was like, no, that's too fucking vulgar. You can't have that for like 10 fucking minutes, bro. Like what the fuck? That's fucked up, you know. But they did it anyway, and because they did that, they got what no one else had, which was to create, for the viewers, it was to create a ridiculous sense of like awareness about that, or like in the UK, we had these like adverts. I think they got rid of them now. They'd have these adverts for like car crashes and shit, where it'd be like, don't drive. The advert would be like, for warning people about driving fast or like drunk driving and shit. And they'd literally have scenes where there's like a fucking like group of kids, like little school kids, sitting on a field having a picnic or playing and having their class outside. And there's like a big stone wall next to them with a wall on the other side of it. And then it's just like, really lovely, nice scene of these kids playing. And then all of a sudden, a fucking car just like fucking flies through this stone wall, launches fucking stones everywhere, and like fucking rolls over all the fucking kids and just kills them. And you just see all of that on the fucking advert on TV, bro. And it's like, that goes against like all the fucking conventions of all this shit, bro. However, it works well because it's so like out of place, it's a pattern breaker, and so it has the effect that like a normal advert, which doesn't surprise people, and it's like a normal advert where it's like, imagine you had like a talking head video of someone telling you about the dangers of drunk driving, wouldn't do shit on you because it's like a normal thing. But when they like show you it and it's like going against like the rules of like what you can put on TV, that's when it hits you, bro, because it's different. It's a pattern interrupt. That's how you get what no one else has got. And so for me, I don't know what mine is. I think I'm currently blind to mine, to be honest. Or maybe it's like that's scary that my brain doesn't even let it come to me. I wish I could know. I mean, knowing what you need to let go of is quite scary because it's really hard to let go of it. But that's the thing. The more pain you go through, the more reward you get. Because this is another thing, by the way. But the reason you haven't made the progress which you haven't made yet is just because it's hard, and that's because all the progress which you can make easily, you've already made, okay? All the business models and offers which can make money easily are already used up, all right? And then people use them, and then there's competition, then they become harder. Because let's say there was some easy business model, everyone would use it, it's no longer easy because there's competition. Or let's say there was some like easy progress you could make, for example, uploading a profile photo, writing your bio, what are the other examples like easy progress you can make? Thinking about your niche, these are like easy things you can do where they help you make a lot of progress. Like having a profile photo versus not having a profile photo, you'll make a lot more progress with a profile photo, obviously, but you can't constantly upload a profile photo for 12 hours a day because it's like easy progress and then use it up once. And so you use up all the easy progress. You decide your niche, you decide your profile photo, you write the bio. Now the only work left to do is like, do the outreach, do the sales calls, make the YouTube videos, and that's harder. Which is why you haven't made the progress which comes from doing them yet, And that's kind of why we need to like overcome ourselves and like let go of our current beliefs, because the letting go of beliefs is something we haven't done, and the reason we haven't done it is because it's hard. Do you get that? Where I'm going with that? So the whole thing of what I was saying about, for me, like I don't know what my thing is that I need to let go of. One idea I had would just be quitting my entire business and just going fully on like, experience maxing potentially, but I don't know if that's it or if that's just like, my brain trying to find something. I don't know if that's true or not. But yeah, essentially, bullish desirelessness is all about like letting go of convention and letting go of your, it's all about letting go of your convention, letting go of normalcy, letting go of your current beliefs, and then seeing what comes from that in a way. It's like bullishly being desirelessness and not being constrained by a belief. Oh, there's a frog outside. I'm just seeing. So for another example, for example, would be with a follow-up sequence you do when you're doing outreach, instead of doing the normal like, "Hey bro, you there?" question mark. "Hey bro, like, can you respond to me please?" Like, no, instead of doing the normal shit like that, instead you go and send them an 8-ball pool link, and you send them an 8-ball pool link. Like 8-ball pool, the fucking mobile game. You send them a link to that to like play with you. Where it's like, "Hey bro, can you join my game of 8-ball pool, please?" Just send them that as a follow-up. Or send them a selfie of, like, you climbing a tree. Some random guy you've never talked to who's ghosting you because you've outreached to him, you send them a photo of you climbing in a tree. That goes against convention. It shocks people, or like the meme follow-ups, which Charlie Morgan speaks about. That's bullish desirelessness, going against the convention. Doing stuff no one else has ever done before. And it's being willing to let go of that, okay? And that's kind of like what bullish desirelessness is all about. It's being willing to be different, dare to be different type shit. And by the way, this isn't on a spectrum. It's not like, oh, you should always go crazy on this shit. There are things where it does help you to be in a routine naturally. It's not like a binary thing where it's good to let go of everything. It is on a spectrum for how much you should do and how much you need and how much you even need. If that makes sense. And so it's not like absolute, but in general, you probably do need to be more creative and be willing to let go of stuff more. But the final evolution, like the most extreme bullish desirelessness that I can think of like building this habit in your brain, and something that I want to do, is essentially kind of like what I kind of call experience maxing, but I think to a level that no one else really speaks about. What I want to do, at one point, is like let go of my event, probably not now, but eventually in the future, is like let go of everything I've got, let go of my business, let go of my identity, and then go and be someone else and live as someone else, okay? And maybe, for example, I go like Italian old man maxing, and I buy some little fucking house in, in fucking, I don't know, Sardinia, in Palermo or somewhere like that. And I just spend a month or more, I don't know, just like living in the sun, drinking wine, smoking cigars, learning Italian, and just being an old Italian man and learning from what they can do. And then instantly I let go of that life. And then maybe for the next month, I live homeless. I live homeless on the streets in London or some shit like that. And I go and be a homeless person. And then for the next month, I go and live as, like, I don't fucking know, a Chinese construction worker in Dubai. An Indian construction worker in Dubai. I go and live as someone like that for a month, And you live many, many, many lives. And you do loads of different shit, and you get these experiences, and you probably think, oh, no way you're going to be a fucking Indian construction worker in Dubai, you couldn't do that, bro, you couldn't live like that. Well, why, what, oh, it's hard. Well, yeah, that's kind of why I'm doing it, to get that experience, because I tell you, no one else who's got a mission like I do is going to do that shit, and so what can I learn from that? Instead of just like studying one subject, I go and study, for the next month, I go and try and be a, quantum physicist, and then the next month after that, I go and live as a trans person in Mexico. Like, what the fuck? But it's like, doing that, it's like so disparate and so like, no one does that. And you're like, you couldn't do that. And I'm thinking like, no, I couldn't do that. But by doing that, you're going to get experiences and no one else has. Like, think of the dad lord you will get from doing that shit, bro, So that's kind of like what I think the final evolution is, like letting go. Like, oh, you couldn't live as a fucking trans person, bro. Like, what the fuck? Your beliefs are against that. Well, let go of those beliefs. Oh, mass immigration's bad and gay people are bad and everything. Well, let go of those beliefs. And I'm not, not preaching like anything political here, but like, let go of those beliefs and see what you learn from being on the other side of the spectrum, and like, just sort of don't be constrained by your beliefs. And I think a lot of people in politics and everything, they'll get polarized and everything, and then they'll just out of like ego and out of their current beliefs. That's a big thing, like letting go of ego, letting go of your current beliefs, and that, like, letting go of ego is a big thing, because that relates in with your current beliefs a load. Like letting go of that and everything, and being willing to let go, embrace the newness, and embracing the whole thing of letting go and being free, not being constrained. Like, because in a way, like, you thinking that you couldn't turn trans, is kind of like, that's a constraint. You can be fully free, but then not being able to turn trans because of your beliefs, well, that's a constraint, right? You're not fully free. You see what I mean with that? So that's kind of like bullish desirelessness articulated somewhat well there. Hopefully you can understand that, and hopefully this video is what works for you. So, I mean, if you just to look at this in your business, what would I tell you to do? Be willing to do shit differently, bro. Being willing to dare to be different. Now, if you are a beginner, it probably does help just to copy people entirely. Like, you probably will progress and learn faster just by copying people. And that's just because, like, in general, you haven't been able to transcend the beliefs and the desires which you don't currently see. And so if you were to try and embrace bullish desirelessness right now, you would probably go and be like, oh, okay, I'm not going to do outreach. I'm going to try and build a business solely out of content, because that's harder to do, but it'll have bigger rewards. But then the actual reason that you want to do content is just because it's easier, like it's less hard work to do with an outreach and sales calls, and your brain's more likely to do something like that, and you don't see that belief or anything like that that's constraining you, or the desire that's constraining you. So you should probably copy someone, but when you get bigger and everything, this mindset of bullish desirelessness can help a lot. Or another thing it can help you do is to drop out and go all in on this. You might think you shouldn't go all in on it. Well, do it. Do it. See what happens. This is kind of akin to the mindset of fuck around and find out in a way. But yeah, that's all for this video. If this has helped you, and if you want to learn more of my mindsets, and you want to learn directly from me, especially if you're a self-improvement YouTuber, then there's a link below where there's a video which basically explains how we help you as a self-improvement YouTuber or content creator or coach to make your first 2K per month. And we're very, very successful doing that, and we'll be able to teach you way more mindsets like this. There's a video down below, whereas it's a link to a page with a video and a link to booking a call with my team down there, where you can go book in a call. Or if you're not interested in that, then we've got our entire course for completely free, hosted on our free school community. It's called the $1,000 Protocol, which will also help you to make your first 2K per month as a self-improvement creator. The link for that is also down below in the description. But yeah, if you want to see more videos from me, I'd really appreciate if you could subscribe, because then you see more content like this. But yeah, other than that, man, thank you for watching. I hope you have an amazing day, and I hope this video can help you. Bye bye, bro.